The federal government, the American government, is weak because it doesn't have a big army, a big navy, high taxes like a European power. And Jefferson said, no, this is exactly our strength. Americans love their government because it doesn't do anything to them. Right. But over time, as the judge was saying earlier, we've come to have this opposite model where now it seems that the government is able to decide how much you get paid, who your doctor's going to be, whether you can buy a gun, what you can, anything it wants to.
Well, if the states had as little power back then as they have today, nobody would have agreed with the Constitution. It seems like it's crept in slowly with people who started with a pure and noble desire to have a centralized government. And they've been encroaching on the rights of the states year by year, bit by bit, law by law, and nobody in the states woke up enough to say, that's too much. So what we're doing in Missouri is we're drawing the line in the sand, and we're saying, this is our territory, that is your territory. The Constitution says that this is our right. And unless we take back what was already given to us, we're not going to get any respect from them.
More than 35 states have already declared sovereignty or in the process of declaring sovereignty against the federal government. And that doesn't mean that they've seceded, as the national corporate media spins it. They're simply stating, look, federal government, you're not supposed to be involved in local education. You're not supposed to be involved in local environmental rules. You're not supposed to be involved running and controlling our local police departments.
Jefferson makes a point that he actually took from Locke. He says, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So there's the key to it, that people can put up with a lot, and probably they should put up with a lot, of friction in the system, simply because the alternative of overthrowing a government with everything that that entails is potentially so horrendous that we don't want to get involved in that. But when it reaches the stage that you can look at what's going on and say, well, this is just a series of usurpations, abuses, which are leading inexorably to this result, then it is not simply one's right, it is your duty to take this kind of action.
The American people have read the Bill of Rights, they've read the Constitution, they've read their state Bill of Rights and Constitutions, and they figured out everything the federal government is doing is illegal and out of control and wrong. And so we're in the right. Not just in the right, it's our duty to stand up and say no and declare states' rights under the 9th and 10th Amendment that is enshrined in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution.
The Declaration of Independence talks about the proper role of government. And right after it talks about the unalienable rights that we were blessed with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it states what government is for. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. And that's the bottom line. We are here to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If your federal government isn't doing that, then the people, as the Declaration of Independence says, the people have the right and the duty to throw off such government and establish new guards for the future of our security and happiness.
It is altogether fitting this be done.
If you don't know what the Constitution says, there's no way you can uphold it.
It's the Cracker Barrel philosophers in Crabtree Corners, and it's the tycoons in Wall Street. It's all races, creeds, and religions. It's freedom to work at the job you like, freedom of speech and to peaceably assemble, freedom to own property, security from unlawful search or seizure.
Where's your warrant, flatfoot?
The right to a speedy and public trial. Protection against cruel punishments and excessive fines. The right to vote. And to worship God in your own way. It is these freedoms that have made America strong. Okay, so we got our freedom. But management's lousing up everything.
Labor is at fault. It's ruining the country.
My constituents, as your elected representative, I can assure you Labor's right. Management's right. I'm strictly neutral.
Labor, management, politicians, phooey. They can't tell corn from oats.
Work!
Hurry, step right up, folks. Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new discovery isn't.
George Washington said that government is not reason. Government is not eloquence. It is force. And like fire, is a dangerous servant and a fearful master.
Thomas Jefferson stated very succinctly, he said that the natural governing state of man is not total freedom. It is not liberty as enshrined in the Constitution. If you look at the history of civilizations across the ages, the vast majority, I'd say 90% of civilizations have been governed by an autocratic entity, an emperor, a king.
Doesn't matter where it is written or even if it is written. You know, you need to understand the difference between rights and privileges. A right is inherent. I can sit here and I can think anything I want. You can make a law that makes it illegal, you know, to think about circles. And I can sit here and just think round, 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 and I can just continue to break the law, and there's no way that anybody can know if I'm breaking the law, and there's no way that anybody can prevent me even if they know that I'm breaking the law.
If you don't know what the Constitution says, there's no way that you can uphold it. And what we have today are people in very high power places of power that are laughing at people who bring up the Constitution.
I don't worry about the Constitution on this, to be honest.
That's right.
Jackpot, brother.
Oh, keep.
I don't worry about the Constitution on this, to be honest.
The entity, i.e. the Congress, who has the responsibility under Article 1, Section 8 for our money and our monetary policy, if something goes wrong with it, they can't point the finger at somebody they delegated the job to. It's still their responsibility, and they need to take ownership for it. And we saw in the in the healthcare debate, we saw the legislators coming home and being held very directly politically accountable for their positions on healthcare, and that is the type of thing that these guys are trying to avoid.
Healthcare, the Department of Education, usurping the National Guard and the state militias for federal bidding, passing laws governing interstate commerce that have nothing to do with interstate commerce. Having a standing army is unconstitutional, if you read it correctly. The Constitution provides for a navy, and that's it. The founders understood that the way we won the Revolutionary War was not through a large standing army, but the militias, and they understood that was the proper way to defend a republic, was through militias. The only thing you need a standing army for is offensive military action.
And so suddenly when the American people realized that the Congress, both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, had become entirely unresponsive to the people, I think that made the people mad. I think people finally realized, hey, this is our government, this is our nation, and we're going to take it back. And I think that's what gave birth to the Patriot Uprising and Tea Party movement.
If we were to look at a list of violations of the Constitution, the federal government, you could look at the Department of Education, you could look at the Department of Energy, you could look at recently the bailouts that have been passed. The federal government does not have the right to just print up money and bail out companies, no matter who they are, whether it's financial service companies or automakers or anyone else, and obligate the taxpayer.
I do believe that the people of Missouri will overwhelmingly approve House Joint Resolution 88. If and when that happens, I'm sure that the federal government, the overreaching hand of the federal government, is going to sweep in and try to tell us that we've done something that we're not allowed to do. The bottom line is, sooner or later, there's going to have to be a showdown.
In the building behind me, we have a Health Care Act introduced by Senator Jane Cunningham and Representative Tim Jones, that it's a constitutional amendment for the state of Missouri, and if it is passed, and we firmly believe that it will be passed, it will throw up a wall to the federal government and essentially give the people of Missouri a choice of participating in the federal law if it's passed or not.